So I found two of what are either going to be the coolest or weirdest hot honey products out there and figured, you know what? Let's taste test these while also talking about how do you use trends in marketing without losing your soul. So while we get the hot honey mac and cheese actually cooking up, why don't we taste test the hot honey Cheez-Its and talk a little bit about this whole idea of trends. So I've got the hot honey Cheez-Its here, and while my little minion is off making the hot honey mac and cheese, we're going to taste test these, and we're going to talk a little bit about like what exactly is happening here, because I don't necessarily know that like most people realize this is something you can use in your business as well, and there are ways to do it without like completely, let's be honest, bastardizing yourself. I have been like a Cheez-It fan like most of my life. Like since I was a kid, my mom bought me like a red shirt, and I never wore red, but it had Cheez-Its on it, and so like I wore this red shirt. Like I'm a Cheez-Its fanatic. I am not a hot honey fanatic though. The few times I have tried it, I have I think I've commented on this channel before. Like sometimes Hot and I get along really well, and sometimes we do not. And Hot Honey and I, it might have been me attempting to take an entire like mouthful of it at once, but we did not get along. So I'm a little nervous about this one, but I'm giving it a try because I do really like Cheez-Its. Plus, like if we break this down from like a marketing standpoint, hot honey is everywhere. Everywhere. We're seeing this literally everywhere. So like, let's talk about why and then what this means. You don't have to use hot honey in your business and in your marketing, but you can use hot honey like in other ways. Well, the idea behind it, at least. Here's why I am actually a little bit excited to give this a try as a hot honey Cheez-It. Not just because it's a Cheez-It, but also because like heat and sweet work really, really well. And this is kind of one of our first like marketing bits here is contrast works really well. Contrast is memorable. So like I said, this is either going to be really great or really, really bad. But that contrast, this is why like if you think about like chefs and stuff when they're taste testing, they're always trying to make sure that like there is different textures because people need something that brings a little bit of variety to their life, whether they have an ADHD brain or not. And one of the things that I've personally loved seeing happen over the past couple of years really is seeing the like Mike's Hot Honey thing. Like in and of itself, I don't know anyone, and I'm sure someone's gonna hop in the comments and be like, hello, me. But like, I don't know anyone who's just like going through gobs of hot honey in and of itself. However, Mike's Hot Honey specifically did this thing where they like went out and they got all of these licensing and brand deals and partnered to bring it literally everywhere. What they did, and this would be like marketing tip number 2, is they leveraged other people's brands to amplify their own, but they were really smart about how they did it. First, they made sure that they were reaching out to people that were complementary, but maybe unexpected. So this made a good experience for a lot of people, but it also made people like stop and pay attention, which is really critically important when it comes to marketing your small business. And I will say they did such a good job with it that like this is not Mike's Hot Honey. It's just hot honey Cheez-Its. And we've seen more and more of this where it's not Mike's Hot Honey, but Mike's Hot Honey is really the one that created this like trend and this wave that started here. Because that is what a trend is, right? Especially when we're able to tap into those trends, it is borrowed momentum. Now, if you have a product business, you might look into using something like hot honey. Like maybe you have an ice cream shop. Well, do a hot honey ice cream, right? Like we do honey-based ice creams all the time. So you can blend that in exactly. But in addition to that, you can also start to look at like what are some other trends out there, and can you look at bringing other people's brands into your marketing and your business in a way that will help people be interested in what you're doing. And really the key here, and I promise I'm going to try these in just a second, but the key with all of this is when you're using a trend, you can use it one of two ways. You can use it in your marketing. So this would be like, you know, social media trends, or taking something that is trending and then using it in your social media. For example, like we saw happen with the couple at what I believe was the Coldplay concert earlier last year, right? And all of a sudden everyone was joking about that, and it's still getting jokes all this time later. There was a celebrity seen at a concert with his actual wife, and they like did a whole thing where the camera panned to them and then they pretended to be the Coldplay couple. Like you can use it in your marketing to get attention, but you can also use it in your offerings themselves. So you can actually build hot honey Cheez-Its or hot honey mac and cheese. You can find ways to integrate something that everyone else is really into right now into what you are actually delivering for people in a way that makes it exciting and interesting. Let's see if they live up. So first, I will say, this looks like it has like a lot more like herb on it. There is not nearly as much herb going on the Cheez-Its. I don't know if you can even see that, but like there's a little bit, but definitely not that this was definitely staged. We'll put it that way. I think I'm getting more like heat than sweet, and not very much Cheez-It smell at all, but okay, I'm not sure what to do with this. The first thing I got was like definitely sweet, right? Like a lot of sweet right up front. It tasted, it's honey adjacent with all that. Like once you start crunching in and biting, it's all Cheez-It. That one did have a little bit more bite. I was gonna say like there's no bite. I feel like this is maybe a little bit of a bite that would build over time. Like you eat a bunch of these, right? Like I could probably demolish this entire bowl, not on camera. And so they don't want it to be something where like I'm going to take a couple bites and I have to stop. And I've had some of those. There's this brand of basically cheese puffs at HEB, which is a local grocery store at us, that is ghost pepper reaper cheese. But anyhow, they are like delicious, but you can eat about 4 of them before you just have to stop. And like that is a whole experience in and of itself. But like this is kind of nice because I could definitely keep eating these and eating these without having, like the end of the world coming into play. So I think that's actually pretty solid. And I think this is really important to recognize is that it does have to fit with your brand, right? It's really important that we make sure that we're not grabbing something that is completely outside the norm and has absolutely no connection. Now, I will say that there's always, there's exceptions to every rule, including the exception to every rule. You could, if you really were just trying to get like talk, like conversation, you could grab something that really has no obvious connection and throw it out there. What I will say is that at least one of the brands, and preferably yours, needs to be strong enough that people can help like create that connection in the comments, or at least be guessing at it or care enough to want to guess at it. So like just food for thought there. Make sure that whatever it is you're doing, whatever trend you're using, does work with your brand, or you have a brand that is strong enough that people are going to want to engage with it regardless. So whenever you are using trends, there's a few questions you're going to want to ask yourself. One of the first ones is like, is this trend already appealing to my target market? So one of the things that the Mike's Hot Honey did was they went to brands that could appeal to foodies, people who would be interested, because they're really more of a niche like product. And so, yeah, they went to brands that were going to appeal to people who were already interested in them. So first and foremost, do you know your target market? Are they going to be into this trend? Secondly, the question is to ask, like, is this something that I want to get them to use again? Or is this something that like is a one and done? For example, the Hot Honey Cheez-Its, obviously those are something people are they want me to eat more of them. And like, they're sitting here. I have a nice pleasant tingle in my mouth now. I'm like, ooh, this is great. Yeah, I want more of them. The last question to ask yourself is like, does this work with my brand? And we've already talked about that quite a bit. When it comes to like marketing, for example, we've done quite a few of these trends using the Epic songs from Epic the Musical by Jorge Rivera, where we know that a lot of the listeners to Epic are ADHD individuals. We love them all, so we use quite a few of those songs whenever we can come up with a fun way to spin them. And especially when they are just getting released, we like to use them to ride that trend a little bit in our marketing, even if it's not necessarily integrated into like the day-to-day of what we're doing. And we have hot honey mac and cheese. My little minion over here brought me the thing to smell, and I don't remember there being a bunch of herbs in hot honey. Did I miss something? Because it smells herby to me. Here's where we're at, because this is where like trends get risky. When you are taking something from being like, an Epic the Musical short, and you're turning it into the actual whole meal here. I think it is really, really important to remember that like your trend is not your identity. It's a tool that you use to help get some reach. But when you build your entire business around a trend, it will trend out of fashion too. So it is important to know what your core business is and then integrate those trends in. To be fair, like Kraft mac and cheese is definitely not like sitting here being like, oh, this is our whole business now. But the point kind of still stands, right? When you take a trend and you make it the main meal, there's got to be some reason for standing with this one. So I'm really excited. I'm personally, as much as I'm a Cheez-It fanatic, I'm also a mac and cheese fanatic. So I'm like super excited. So let's go. Oh, it smells good. It smells herby. What is this herby thing? I don't understand it. Matt is really good about following directions and instructions. So this was cooked exactly to the instructions on the back. If I did it, we'd have to be a lot more concerned about that because Stephanie's Italian and she cooks with love or something. But definitely not with measuring supplies. Whereas Matt does. So this is, as far as we can tell, how it's supposed to be cooked at. All I'm getting is really herb. I'm not getting, there's a little bit of spice there on the back end, but I'm not really getting any sweet or any hot honey there. I'm also not getting much mac and cheese flavor. Um, there's a little bit. There's a little bit. Okay. But mostly what I'm getting is a little bit of mac and cheese with like some herb, and then like there's definitely a much stronger bite on the back end than like the Cheez-Its had. I think I could eat a whole bowl of it just because it's not the end of the world spicy. But also it is definitely not like, I would never feel like bound and determined to like take this off the, shelf and get another one of these. Which I think is another piece that's really important to remember, that like sometimes if your brand is big enough, you can get away with doing something just to get people to buy something. Again, as long as it's relatively inexpensive. I don't remember exactly how much this cost, but it was not that expensive. And so a lot of times you can get people to like grab something for a trend if it's a one-off. Now, remembering like that trend may not turn into anything like big, right? Mac and cheese is riding on everyone loving the hot honey thing, right? Everyone who likes hot honey is going to try it and grab it. And I pretty much guarantee like people who really love hot honey are going to grab their hot honey from the counter and they're going to like squeeze it on top. And then they're probably going to then decide that like that's how they're going to do their hot honey mac and cheese. There's no reason to buy a whole extra box of it. Yeah, there you go. That is how you use trends. This is why trends are valuable, and that is how you use trends. So here's my question for you with this one, as I'm probably going to go eat my mac and cheese and Cheez-Its. I guess this is my lunch now. But what could you adapt into either your business itself, or what could you adapt into your marketing? You don't need to copy it wholesale, but can you take something that is getting a lot of attention out there and find a way to integrate it? And while we're at it, like, would you try either of these?